Everybody, apologies for the light. Firstly, happy 2018. I'm going to talk today. I've entitled this video The Sound of Silence. The reason I've called it this is because I'm going to explore grief a little bit more than the previous video. I've had lots of requests and lots from different areas have come up of questioning grief that is often forgotten. And what I mean by that, there are many different forms of grief. Grief such as, let's say, not just the loss and the physical sense of somebody, but the emotional and spiritual aspects where somebody perhaps has been, shall we say, in a vegetative state for, say, 20 years, where the people who love them don't know whether they're in this world or between worlds. And there's been many different accounts of people coming out of a coma. I know for a fact an old friend of mine, his father was in a coma for 9 months. When he woke up, he had no recollection that he was in a coma. He thought he'd emigrated to Australia, and he had to be convinced that he hadn't. We don't know what goes on in between the vegetative state, but we have got books, as I've mentioned before, by Ibn Alexander, whereby he did indeed cross over to the other side. So there's that type of grief. Is the person ever going to come out of that? But what about the grief of somebody who, for example, child goes missing? They don't know if they're alive or dead. So they have no closure, right? Then there is the grief of where a child takes their own life. How hard is that? Then there is grief across the board where somebody is in a state of where they're never going to get better and their life is a living hell. And part of that person's loved ones wishes they would pass to give them peace or release from pain. So grief is a massive term, an umbrella term, if you like. And do I have all the answers? God, no, I don't. And do I live with grief? Yes, I know about what I call death in life. And when you experience grief, as we are all touched at some stage in our life, our heart is shattered like a china doll into 1,000 pieces. How do you rebuild a broken heart? How do you put a time limit on the pain, the emptiness, the sound of silence? The silence, the absence of the presence of the loved one, the smell of them, their laughter, their hugs, their touch, the things, the quirks, the annoying things they did to you, gone, empty. Now, I spent a long time speaking to many people via the internet who I've never met, who have suffered grief in very different various forms. And I would like to say here, please, if you're watching my videos, please don't disclose too much information and put your phone number on the internet. Don't do that. It's really dangerous out there, and there are a lot of cranks who will feed off you. So please keep it brief. Or I did have to delete a couple of comments because of safety of the person who put them. Don't expose yourself. So I'm just warning you. Now, myself, I have dealt with a lot of grief. And as I've said before, I don't have all the answers. But what I do have is the only thing, and that is coping strategies. Now, I help people when spirit comes through, and I can't always say how that will happen. Some spirits are far more pushy and will bully their way to the front and come through more readily than other people. And a lady the other day was speaking to me, and she said that she always felt a deceased child around her for a long time. She had a lot of unanswered questions and what ifs and what could she have done. But she felt that her child was no longer around, and she wondered why they had deserted it. And I said, no, they haven't deserted you. They have graduated now, and they want you. Ask yourself this. Would your loved one want you to be constantly in a state of perpetual sorrow and misery? And I think the answer we all know is no, they wouldn't, right? That is not to belittle your grief. I'm not belittling anyone's grief, and neither am I putting a time limit on it. What I am saying is grief is like a two-step. It's 2 steps forwards, sometimes 5 steps backwards, right? And it will hit you like a tsunami when you're not expecting it, right? How do you deal with it? For me personally, I think creativity helps me. Whether it helps you, I don't know, right? Planting a garden may help you. I don't know, right? But I've thought about how can I best help in this short little segment, and all of the views that I've had, which I'm absolutely blown away by, and I'm very, very touched by. What can I offer? So I have to be brief, and that is certain strategies, right? And the first is the New Year diet. And the New Year diet doesn't consist of cutting out foods. It consists of building the heart with the things that will help repair the heart. You may never heal a heart. I know my heart can't be totally healed. No, it never can be. So what I'm going to suggest is in your heart that is now empty, as is your soul, and it's bereft in the darkness, the sound of silence, the absence, the tears that stroll down upon your face, like mine did the other night at 1 a.m. in the morning, and then at 4 a.m. in the morning. Yes, it happens to me. I practice 1 or up to 3 a day, if I can, random acts of kindness, of doing good for somebody. That helps me combat my own grief, because I live my life with a hole in it. I live alongside a living death, and there are living deaths. There is such thing as death in life. So if you think of all the forms of grief, whether it be death through sickness, death through suicide, the answers, could I have prevented it? Murder. How do you forgive that? When forgiveness and love are the 2 most fundamental things in spirituality. Without them, you cannot progress on. You cannot get towards the light. And this is what I want to do. We're in the dark months of the year now, and we want to get towards the light. And sometimes when people have done us wrong, let's say your child has been murdered by somebody, that's not an easy thing. How do you forgive? Can you find it in your heart to forgive the person who did it? Or, your child has been taken, never to be found. You don't know, you've no closure. How do you cope with that and go on with life? There's a very famous case of a young child who's never been found, and we all know who that little girl is. How does her mum cope? I have great admiration. How she does it, I don't know. I really, really don't. You know who I'm talking about. It's the most famous case in the world. But my heart goes out to her. And I often compare my own sorrow to hers. And in that way, I'll keep a perspective. And you have to remember that we're all different, and that each of us, our pain to us is our pain. And how we deal with it is up to us. And we can make choices, maybe tiny ones. And there'll be days when you don't want to know about making a choice to go on. You just want to shut the world out and sod off, right? I'm not interested. Leave me out of it, right? But you wake up each morning and you breathe. And you're still breathing because there's a reason. And that reason is love and forgiveness, right? And life is a lesson. And you can't say, well, I actually think, well, I'm having a bad day. You can say, you know what? I'm having a life lesson day today. And the lesson we're doing, it's pretty hard. I don't think I'm doing that good at it, but I'm trying, right? Do I have the answers being a mystic? Nope, I don't. Because I am a work in progress. I hurt and bleed exactly like you. Making these videos helps me heal my own pain, my own losses, and there've been several. Well, actually more than several now. They're in double figures. Now, what I find helps, right, is apart from doing acts of kindness, is to feed that diet of self-love. That is easier said than done. because we do really come down hard upon ourselves and blame ourselves so much. We forget to love ourselves. When we radiate love towards ourselves, that love will ripple back out, right? I'm not a big fan of I'm sending you hugs and I'm here when I need you. Great if you mean it. And I mean it. Don't say it. And then when I phone you up at 4 o'clock in the morning, say, well, I couldn't possibly come out now. No, say it and mean it and do it. I can't be doing with it. It just does my head right in. Now, a good way is to build into your life tiny, call it the little glue that sticks the heart back together, little areas. Pick up a hobby, a tiny step towards something, right? Do something for someone else, another tiny step towards something. Practice affirmations. Now, affirmations, I'm going to mention these, right? The big thing, the big thing. I'm going to rip off and rip into The Secret, by the way, okay? Yeah, we all know about The Secret, right? Let me tell you something. The Secret isn't a secret. It is just rehashed from years back and remarketed. And actually, it's a way in the spiritual movement of making more and more money. And it's the buzzword. Well, an affirmation is exactly a spell or a prayer said in the correct manner to manifest what you want. It's exactly the same thing. There is no difference. It is the same thing. So what they're doing is rehashing, remarketing something that has been going since time immemorial. It's been going on forever. So what I'm saying, if you go back to brilliant books, highlighted or started it all anyway, was Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. She was on about affirmations 40 years ago. Wayne Dwyer, great writers, good in the spiritual field. I enjoyed all of their books. Read anything by them and you can't go wrong. Practicing love and forgiveness, that is a step. It's a strategy. But it sounds simple. It isn't simple. It isn't. Nothing with the grieving process is easy. You'll have days when it's great and days when you are not so great. But tiny steps lead to bigger things, giant strides, right? Now, I'm going to mention about, I've had a few spirits pop in of late, and some spirits pop in more than others because they've got stronger personalities. I had a nice visit the other night from an old boyfriend, and he embraced me. But it was an embrace, and his embrace said, thank you. And I can't tell you more about it, but it was lovely to him and to said, thank you. Right? He's long gone now. And another of my friends, who's now deceased, well, he came through, in the middle of the morning, and he woke me up. He was a very pushy person. I had to grab a pencil, that book, wrote all over it what he was saying. And I had to ring up his wife at 5 a.m. And I thought she'd be in bed, and she wasn't in bed. She was outside praying for a sign from him because she had a really, really important decision to make. And she was in the garden with her dog at 5 o'clock in the morning, and her phone rang, and it was me saying, your dead husband is here with me now, and this is what he's telling me. And it brought her immense closure because she had a monumental personal decision to make about an estate and everything. And he got through. But that was his personality. So we're not all so lucky. And we all want those signs, don't we? Keep yourself open. Don't close yourself off. And don't isolate that heart of yours. It's give love before. And ask yourselves this each day. Just keep talking to your loved ones. What would my loved one want me to do today? Would they want me to be consumed by grief and sorrow, bitterness, hatred, anger, whatever? Or would they want me to live on the rest of my days with love in their heart for me and for others? And I think that they would want to see you happy. So I am going to recommend in your diet for your broken heart, or as I say, living life with a hole in it, I'm going to recommend that you use Simple techniques such as comedy, love, laughter, lots of laughter, surround yourself with new people, bring in joy, bring in colour, bring in life, plant some bulbs to blossom in the spring. So we're going towards the light, the summer months and the sunshine. And with that new life will bring new hope and new, shall we say, healing. Healing to that wounded heart, the empty soul, the emptiness, the space that's left behind. That's it, isn't it? The space that's left behind. I watched a film last night about somebody whose daughter was murdered. It was a really heavy film, but it was very, very good. And a mother's grief. And it made me think deeply and about that art of forgiveness. It is a very difficult thing to do, but if you can master it, you're on the right way. So what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to talk, I've mentioned this lady before, but I'm going to suggest on grief 3 books, if I can get them in. And one is Life Lessons by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Fantastic read. Another by her is called The Wheel of Life, about her, because she was the only doctor who ever interviewed dying patients, but she was a fascinating lady. Fascinating. Please read her books. And one that just come up when I was double checking this before is one is called Life Lessons by Remarkable Women, and it's coming out in March. Now I can't comment on whether it's going to be any good because there was no reviews on it, and I thought that's interesting, so it may well be worth a read on that. Now I always find when I'm really down, comedy, I've said this before, because it releases chemical endorphins that lift your soul and lift your brain, right? And do you remember the late Robin Williams? Well, he was one of my favourites, and I loved Robin Williams. I thought he was a genius. I like people who are off the wall, and Robin Williams was off the wall. But the best role I loved him in was where he played the guy, and I have seen the real guy who he played, Patch Adams. Now that is a beautiful film. Watch it because it's a true story. And Patch Adams is a doctor who practices the art of medicine through the power of laughter and clowns. And his protocol is happiness. The film is so uplifting. And I really, really would like those of you, especially if you've lost a child, watch it. Because I have read the real Patch Adams and seen him. And you can watch him on YouTube. And that will uplift you. I don't have a magic wand. Do I have an answer for everything? No, I don't. I'm not a perfect human being. I'm a bozo on the bus like all of us. And do I make mistakes? Hell yeah. Days when I think, oh, I've really done it. I'm really doing it now. And then days when I'm, oh, sorry, I can't be bothered. We all have days like that because we're all a work in progress. But the sound of silence, hello darkness, my old friend, makes me think of when I talk to my loved ones in the wee hours, as you do too. Never forget them, send them love. But remember this, that they would want you happy and they would want you to be enjoying life. I'm quite sure nobody who you've lost would want you in a pit of misery. That's not to say that it's unhealthy to grieve. We all need to grieve, and there is no time limit on that. But at some stage, we have to pick our head up and look towards the sun, just for a few seconds, and then those few seconds become minutes, and then the minutes become days, and then we move on very, very slowly. Life will never be the same. We can't change that. And I walk alongside a grief of my own, as many of you do. Keep watching and keep sharing. I've been absolutely blown away by the support I've received, and the amount of views is amazing. I'm going to make another little video on the spiritual movement, and I'm going to be quite critical about mediums and about the spiritual new ages which actually get on my nose. But that's for another time. So, if you want to laugh and a beautiful film, watch Patch Adams. And like I say, I don't ever recommend anything I haven't tried, except I've recommended a book there that I've ordered myself. It may be a good read, it may not. Didn't give much information, but when it came up, I went, I meant to get that. So I'm going to give it a whirl. It's out, you can pre-order it in March, I think. So I've pre-ordered it. Hopefully it may help. So this is just a little snippet, right? A little bit further on. To remember that your grief, you sometimes forget there is always somebody worse off than yourself. But we can't help our nature. So get on that diet. Self-love, laughter, buy yourself the dress. Don't waste. Spend the money. Don't keep it in the bank. You can't take it with you. You certainly can't. Fill your life with people who uplift you, not drain you, right? So it's not a bad day. It's a day when the lesson's a bit tougher than it was previously, but you're getting by and you're going to pass. Have a great day and thank you for watching. And speak soon. Bye for now.